This is quiz 2. So still back from unit 2, the beginning of unit 2. When we first started talking about, well, actually, I think this was unit 1. This is back from unit 1. Okay, when we were talking about angles, naming angles, midpoints, angle measures, and stuff like that. Okay, so the first question here is asking us to name, I cut off a little bit, or I think this is the document version instead of the PDF version, but it's asking us to classify these angles as either acute, obtuse, right, or straight. So are they right angles, straight angles, obtuse angles, or acute angles? Okay. Well, right angles are angles that are 90 degrees, so they have a right angle. Right angles are 90 degrees. Okay. Straight angles are angles that form a straight line. Okay, 180 degrees. Straight angles are 180 degrees. Acute angles are angles that are less than 90 degrees. And then obtuse angles are angles that are between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So acute between 0 and 90, right 90, obtuse between 90 and 180, and straight 180. Angle QPT. So again, that's how we name our angle. So QPT, this is going to be a right angle. Okay, so it's a right angle. Second one's asking for UPO. Again, P is the vertex, so P is in the middle. Okay, so UPO or UPQ is going to be this angle right here. UPQ is this angle right here. Okay, that, as we notice, is less than 90. Okay, so it's going to be acute. Right, UPO, Q. Okay. Then we have QPS. We notice here's 90. Right, this is 90. Okay, so it is greater than 90, right? QPS is greater than 90, right? Here's our 90 degrees, greater than 90. So it's going to be obtuse. Okay, greater than 90 degrees, we have an obtuse angle. Angle TPS, right here, we notice this angle is less than, so if it was 90 degrees, it would be like this. So we notice it's less than 90, right? TPS, so that's going to be acute. QPR, angle QPR, right, again, is going to be greater than 90, QPR. This is 90 right here, so it's greater than 90. Okay, so we're going to have obtuse. Okay, then RPT, right, again, if this was 90, RPT is going to be less than 90. Right, so RPT is going to be, angle RPT is going to be the acute angle. Okay, and that's all they want for the first. Name and classify the angles. Okay, number 2, M is the midpoint of PQ. First thing we should probably do is draw it out, just so we can see what we're looking at. Okay, we want to draw it out. Okay, so PQ. Here's a segment PQ. And it's telling us M is the midpoint. So M is in the middle. The midpoint, by definition, splits PQ into 2 congruent segments. So PM is going to be congruent to MQ by definition. They're telling us PM is 6x plus 7. They're telling us MQ is 9x minus 8. Then find the length of PQ. Well, we need to find x first, so we need to come up with some sort of equation to solve for x. So we can plug it back in, substitute it back in, and figure out what PQ is. So we know we have congruent segments, right? Midpoint creates congruent segments. It splits PQ into 2 congruent segments, PM and MQ. So we know that PM is going to be congruent to MQ. Okay, so we know PM, right, the distance between P and M, is going to equal MQ, the distance between M and Q, the length of MQ. So PM we know is 6x plus 7, and MQ we know is 9x minus 8. Okay. We need to solve for x, so let's subtract 6x from both sides. 7 equals 3x minus 8. Let's add 8 to both sides. 15 is 3x. Divide by 3. Okay. 5 is going to be x. Okay. Are we done? No, we are not done. The question does not ask for x. It asks for PQ. We just need to find x in order to find PQ. So PQ is going to be the whole thing. So these two pieces added together. So 6x plus 7. If we were to write it out formally, right, we would say PQ is going to equal PM plus MQ. So PQ is going to equal 6x plus 7, right? PM is 6x plus 7 plus, what is MQ? 9x minus 8. Okay. What do we know x is? We know it's 5, so we can substitute in the x. Okay, so PQ is going to be 6 times 5 plus 7 plus 9 times 5 minus 8. So PQ is going to be 30 plus 7 plus 45 minus 8. Okay, so 30 plus 45 is going to give us 75, right? 55, 65, 75. Plus 7 minus 8 is going to give us 74. So PQ is 74. Okay, if M is the midpoint, that's 74. Both these pieces here should be 37. Okay, let's substitute in C. So 6 times 5. Right, so if we have 6 times 5 plus 7, that's going to be 30. Plus 7 is 37. Here we have 9 times 5 minus 8. So 45 minus 8 is 37. You don't have to write this step out. Oops. I was trying to do a star. I don't know how to do a star though. There. Right? Trying to do a star, right? We could just go on right away. So you could have done here, you could have gone, okay, 6 times, right, 6x plus 7. So 6 times 5 plus 7 is 37. And then 9 times 5 minus 8 is going to be 37. Add those two together, we have 74. It doesn't need to be formally written out like this, just as long as you know what you're doing and you get the answer. But if you do it like this, you're less likely to make mistakes and better chance for me to give you partial points. Wrong computer. All right. Next one. We have find some angles on this one. So first thing we should probably do is write in what we know. So let's pick what we know. TPQ. TPQ is 90. So we have another right angle here. QPS. QPS is 7x minus 12. SPR is 5x plus 6. SPR is 5x plus 6. Okay, we need to find x and the following angle measures. Okay, well, one thing we notice is, what do these two angles add up to? Right? They add up to a right angle. Right? We know a right angle is 90 degrees, so we know the measure of angle RPS plus the measure of angle SPR. So they said SPR. Let's call it SPR. Just either way is fine. RPS or SPR. They said SPR. Let's call it angle SPR. Okay. Plus the measure of angle QPS is going to equal 90 degrees. Right? These two add up to form our right angle. That's our angle addition postulate. Okay. So SPR, measure of angle SPR is 5x plus 6. Measure of angle QPS is 7x minus 12. From here, we just solve for x. Combine like terms, 12x. 6 minus 12 is minus 6. Okay, add 6 to both sides. 12x is 96. Divided by 12, x is going to equal 8, right? And 48 divided by 12 is 4. Right, so you just double that, and it's going to be 8. Or you do it in the calculator. Either way, we're going to get 8. So that's our first blank. Okay, right here is asking for QPS. So we know QPS, the measurement of QPS is 7x minus 12. So 7 times 8 minus 12. Okay, 7 times 8 is 56. 56 minus 12 is going to give us 44. That's QPS. So measure angle QPS. Right? Equals. QPR. Okay. Well, what's the measure of angle QPR? It's a right angle, so it's going to be 90 degrees. Okay. Next one, TPR is a straight angle. It's a straight line. What's the measure of a straight line or straight angle? 180 degrees. SPR, so SPR. So SPR, we know the measure of angle SPR is going to be 5x plus 6. What's x? Substitute in the x. 5 times 8 plus 6. 5 times 8 is 40. So we're going to get 46. And the last one is SPT. So what do we say? So we got to have to add these two together. So they're telling us TPQ is 90 degrees. Okay. What are they telling us? What do we find out that the measure of angle QPS was? QPS was 44. Okay. So the measure of angle SPT is just going to simply be 90 plus 44. Right. SPT is going to be these two added together. Again, angle addition postulate. What two angles make up angle SPT? It's these two. And we know that one's 90 and that one is 44. So 90 plus 44 gives us 134 degrees. So that's the front side. Okay, let's go over to the back. So this is where we have midpoint and distance formula. Midpoint and distance formula. So you guys have to know these equations for the test. Okay, so the distance, well, we'll start with the midpoint, I think, right? Okay. So plot the points. So let's plot the points. A is 5, negative 4. So this is A. Okay, and then B is negative 2, 6. Okay, on the coordinate plane below, find C, which is the midpoint of the 2 points. Show that AC equals BC. Okay, so we got to find the midpoint. So that's the middle point. Okay. So B, let me write, is negative 2, 6. Negative 2, comma 6. A is 5, comma negative 4. So all we're doing to find the midpoint is finding the average of the two x coordinates. So here's our two x coordinates, 5 and negative 2. We want to find the average of those two numbers. And then we want to find the average of the two y values. Okay. So to find the average of the two x values, we just simply add them together and divide by 2. So the midpoint, the x value of the midpoint, so we're going to call that xm, x sub m, just because it's a midpoint. So the x value of the midpoint, right, is going to equal the first x value plus the second x value divided by 2. We're just taking the average of the x value. Okay, and then the y value of the midpoint is simply going to be the average of the two y values. So it's not really even memorizing an equation, just simply understanding the concept here. We want to find the average. So we know the average is going to be somewhere in here, right? The midpoint's going to be somewhere in here. Okay, what's halfway between -2 and 5? Well, we don't even need to do this, right? We can just visualize. Okay, what's halfway between -2 and 5? Well, if we went over 2, that way, we'd be at 0. If we started here at 5 and we went over 2, we'd be at 3. Okay, so if we go over again 1 and again 1, now we're at 1 and 2. Then we go half and half. We know our midpoint's probably going to be 1.5. What's halfway between 6 and -4? So 6 and -4. Well, if you go down 5 and up 5, we'll meet at 1. So we know right away our point's going to be, without even doing any math, okay, 1.5, comma, 1. Well, let's do it and make sure we know how to use the formula, which is taking the average of the x value and the average of the y value to find the middle. So this is our one endpoint. This is our other endpoint. So what's our two x values? -2 and 5. So xm is going to be -2 plus 5 over 2, which is going to give us 3 over 2. And what's 3 over 2? It's 1.5. So we're good. Okay. Here's our two y values, 6 and -4. So 6 plus -4. Okay. What's 6 plus -4? It's going to be a positive 2 over 2. So y value is going to be 1. So our midpoint is 3/2, 1, which is exactly what we have here. 3/2 is 1.5. So they match up perfectly. Okay. So we found the midpoint. We found C. This is point C. Okay. Show that AC equals BC. So we need to find AC now, and we need to find BC. So I'm going to erase this so we have more room, but let's know we found C to be 3/2, 1. So 1.5, 1. Let me erase this so I have more room, though, so I can write big enough. So we want to find the distance between A and C. That's what this means. This means the distance between A and C, the length of AC. So how far is this? If we were to put a ruler on this and measure it, what would it say? What's the length? Okay. Relative to our coordinate system. Okay, well, what's the distance between these 2 points? Okay. So to find distance, we should probably use the distance formula. Again, you could imagine a triangle. Okay. How far is it from 1 to -4? It's going to be 5 units. How far is it from 3.5 to 5? Right, that's going to be 3.5 units. Okay. If we called this D, the distance, right, we have a right triangle. So if you use the Pythagorean theorem, 5 squared plus 3.5 squared is going to equal D squared. We can then square root both sides, solve for D. Okay, that's one way to do it. Okay, but if we want to use the distance formula, we want to do square root x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Right, where's that coming from? It's coming from right here. How did we get 5? We did x1, or we did y. Well, how did we get 3.5? We did x1 minus x2, so 5. Right, we did. Let me erase this. Right, we did 5 minus 3.5 squared, okay, plus 1 minus negative 4 squared. And we said that equals, all right, we said the square root of that is our distance. Okay. You can see that. Not sure. We said that's our distance. Right? That's this formula right here. That's exactly what we're going to do. I'm sorry, this isn't 3.5, this is 1.5. Right? Then you would get 3.5 squared plus 5 squared. Okay. So that's where this is coming from. But anyways, let's get on to it. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so we want to find AC. Okay. So what 2 points are we using to find AC? We're going to use A and C. Okay, so we can call this x1, y1. We can call this x2, y2. So we have 5, and then from here we're just substituting into the equation. What's x2? It's 5. 5 minus 3.5, so I'm going to put 1.5 squared. Plus negative 4 minus 1. Negative 4 minus 1 squared. So AC is going to be the square root. That's 5 minus 1.5 is, well, if we have it in 3 halves, so let's go back and write it as 3 halves. Okay, and you can, from right here, if you have that decimal, you can put it in your calculator and see what you get. That's fine. But if we're going to do it out, we need to be in fractions. So if I'm going to find a common denominator, so I'm going to have 10 over 2 minus 3 over 2 squared plus, this is going to give me negative 5 squared. So AC is going to be 7 halves squared. 10 minus 3 is 7, so 7 halves squared plus 25. AC is going to equal, so this becomes 49 over 4. We want to get a common denominator, so this is going to be 100 over 4. So AC is going to equal the square root of 149 over 4, which we can reduce to square root of 149 over 2. But again, once you get to this step, just put it in your calculator. It'll tell you the answer. That's perfectly fine. If you want to use fractions and get an exact answer, that's fine too. So we found AC. Let's write that on the side. We know AC equals square root of 149 over 2. Now we need to find BC. If we did it right, BC should also be the same thing. BC should also be the same thing. So let's do BC and see if we get the same answer. I hope so, because I'm erasing this and we can't see what we did wrong otherwise. Okay. So which 2 points are we going to use if we're finding BC? So we're going to find the distance from B to C. That's what BC means. Okay, we're going to find this distance right here. Okay, using our distance formula. So again, if we make this x1, right, the 2 points we're using are B and C, right? So if this is x1, y1, we make this x2, y2. All we have to do is substitute into our equation. Okay, so distance is going to equal the square root of what's x2? Negative 2 minus 3 halves. Already, we know that's going to be negative 3.5, right? Negative 3.5. Right? Negative 3.5 squared is going to be the same as 3.5 squared, like we had in the last one, so that's good. That's good news. Y2 is 6. y1 is 1. Okay. 6 minus 1. Which again is 5, which is going to be the same as the last one. So we're on a really good place right now. Okay. If we tried to, again, plug that in the calculator, make that negative 1.5, it'll get you the right answer, but let's just do it out. Common denominator, so negative 4 over 2 minus 3 over 2 plus 5 squared. So d is going to be the square root of negative 7 halves squared plus 25. Okay, we did minus 4 minus 3 is negative 7. Negative 7 squared is going to be 49. 2 squared is going to be 4. Okay. Common denominator here, so we're going to have 100 over 4. Right, we want to multiply this one by 4 over 4 to get our common denominator of 4. And again, I keep putting d, but this should be, that's fine, but because we labeled it d, but let's just call it BC. BC, right, the distance between B and C. So then BC is going to equal the square root of 149 over 4, which is going to equal square root of 149 all over 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. And what do we know? Does BC equal AC? Yes, it does. So we now have shown that those two are equal to each other. Okay. So you got to find the midpoint. Midpoint. Using the midpoint formula, we're just taking the averages. Okay, then they want the distance between AC and the distance to BC. And we show that these two distances are the same, right? So this was D2 and this is D1, right? This was BC, this was AC. We found this was 149 over 2, and this was also square root of 149 over 2. Right, this was square root of 149 over 2, and this was square root of 149 over 2 units, or whatever. It's number 4. Number 5. Again, these aren't numbered right because I think this is the Google Docs that wasn't edited. But this is number 5. It's probably the easiest one on the test. Well, I don't know about easiest, but fastest, I guess. Quickest, shortest amount of time. Least time consuming problem. AXB is 23 degrees. Okay. Tells us XB, right here, XB, is the angle bisector of AXC, angle AXC. So an angle bisector, like a segment bisector, splits whatever it is in half. So a segment bisector splits the segment into two congruent parts. The angle bisector splits the angle into two congruent parts. So we're splitting angle AXC into two congruent parts, AXB and BXC. Right, so we know angle AXB is congruent to angle BXC. So that one's 23. This one is also going to be 23. So the measure of angle BXC is 23. What is the measure of angle AXC? Right, it's going to be 23 plus 23, which is 46. Right. These two angles added together give us the big angle, which is AXC. Right, these two added together give us AXC. Right, the bisector splits the angle in half, so we know these two pieces are congruent. We know angle AXB is congruent to angle BXC. So the measure of angle AXB is equal to the measure of angle BXC. So if that's 23, this is also 23. Add them together to get the whole thing, which is 46. Okay, 6. We got to go back up to the graph. Using points A and B from the graph above, if B is the midpoint of AD, and it's out of whack for some reason, but if B is the midpoint of AD, okay, we got to figure out what A and B were. So A was 5, -4. So A is 5, -4. And B is -2, 6. -2, 6. So again, the question's a little off here, but it's if B is the midpoint of a D, find the coordinates of point D. So it's saying B is the midpoint. So this is XM, this is our midpoint, right? B is the midpoint. -2, 6 is the midpoint. All right, so we have a segment AD. Let's graph this. Okay. A is 5, -4. Okay. B is -2, 6. Okay. B is the midpoint of AD. So where's D have to be? D is going to have to be somewhere up here, right? B is the midpoint of AD. Okay, it's in the middle of A and D. So we have a segment AD, right? Here's our segment AD. Okay, B is in the middle. B is the midpoint of AD. Okay. So this is a mid. So this is an end. So yeah. We'll leave the M. Well, no. Yeah, we'll leave the M. So this is XM, YM. Okay. This is an endpoint. Okay. We'll call this X1, Y1. Okay. What's our other endpoint? A and D. So D is going to be X2, comma, Y2. We don't know what D is. We're just going to say X2 and Y2. I'm not sure the best way to explain this because I know it's going to make sense to some people, but not make sense to others. Really, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find how far away. So if we wrote it a little differently, we said here's point A. A is 5, -4. Okay, here's point B. B is -2, 6. Here's D. Okay, what are these numbers going to be to make this distance the same? Okay. So how far is it from 5 to -2? Right, we have to go plus 7. So how far do we have to go from B to D? We have to go another plus 7. What's negative? I'm sorry. We went down 7, right? 5 minus 7 is -2. So we're going to have to go down 7 again, right, to -9, right? So -2 is in the middle of 5 and -9. It's 7 away from each side. 7 away from each side. It's right in the middle of 5 and -9. To get to 6, we have to go plus 10. I get a little confused with negatives too. But plus 10. So here we have to go plus 10. That gives us 16. So 6 is in the middle of -4 and 16. If you had a number line, right? If you had a number line that went from -4 to 16, right? And you counted 10 places, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is where you would see 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right in the middle, right, is going to be 6. If this makes sense to you, that's great. Do it this way. If it doesn't make sense to you, let's use the formula. Okay, so our midpoint formula says that the midpoint is equal to 2 endpoints added together divided by 2. And then our y value for our midpoint is going to be the 2 y values added together divided by 2. Okay, well, what's the x value of our midpoint? Right, b is our midpoint because it tells us b is the midpoint. Okay, the midpoint x value then is negative 2. Okay. What's one of the endpoints we have? We have a and d as endpoints. So what's the x value of a? 5. Okay, what's the x value of our other endpoint, d? Well, we don't know that x value. We just said it was x2. Okay. And then we're going to divide by 2 to finish the formula. Okay. We want to get rid of 2 in the denominator, so multiply both sides by 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. These 2's cancel. 5 plus x2. Subtract 5 from both sides, we get negative 9 equals x2. It's exactly what we got down here. And what's our midpoint? Our midpoint is b. What's the y value of our midpoint? 6. Okay. We have 2 endpoints, a and d. What's the y value of our 2 endpoints? Well, the first y value is negative 4. Okay. The second value we don't know. We just labeled it as y2. Okay. Finish our formula off by dividing by 2. So our midpoint is b. Our endpoints are a and d. So the midpoint y value is the y value of b, which is 6. So 6, we're substituting that in for ym, which is the midpoint value of y. Okay. Then we substitute in our y values for a and d, which is negative 4 and y2. Okay. We got to solve for y2 now, so we got to get 2 out of the denominator. So we multiply both sides by 2. We get 12 equals, these 2's cancel, negative 4 plus y2. Add 4 to both sides. 16 is y2. So our other endpoint, point D, is going to equal negative 9, comma 16. Right here, negative 9, comma 16. Either way, we get the right answer. So again, the key to the problem is understanding what you're looking at, and drawing it out really helps. Okay, so we're using points A and B. We know B is the midpoint of AD, so we know right here we have 3 points. Okay, and I know this is written a little out of order on this one, but B is the midpoint of AD. So we have B, A, and D. So we have segment AD. B is in the middle. B is the midpoint. We know what B is. We know what A is. We're trying to find D. You can use this method. That's fine. You can count. You can do however you want as long as you get to that other endpoint. But if you don't understand that way, use the formulas. Okay, X is the midpoint. The X value of the midpoint is equal to our 2 X value averages, right, divided by 2. Okay, so this X value, which we know is negative 2, is going to be equal to the X values averaged together. So the X value of A is positive 5. We don't know the X value of D, so we just call it X2. So 5 plus X2, those are our 2 X values of the endpoints. Add them together, find the average by dividing by 2 because there's 2 of them. Okay. Then we have our equation solved for X2, so our other endpoint is going to be negative 9. All right, if we want to check, right, XM should be negative 9 plus, well, we'll do it the other way. 5 plus negative 9 divided by 2. Okay, so XM should be negative 4 divided by 2, which is negative 2. YM should be negative 4 plus 16 divided by 2. Negative 4 plus 16 is 12 divided by 2, so ym is going to be 6. So our midpoint is -2, 6, and look at that. We have B, which is our midpoint. Okay, so that is quiz 2. Again, I encourage everyone to retake it, even if you got C or whatever. Summative points can help improve your grade. The summative score, the summative grade matters. It goes on your GPA permanently. So get the best grade possible for semester 1. Further questions, feel free to ask me. I want to help you guys get as good of a grade as you could possibly get. Okay.